Thank you so much for being here on behalf of the family. Your presence truly is a comfort at this time. We know that we're here because we care. We know that we're here because death has once again visited our community, taking somebody who was near and dear to so many, Julian Benjamin. And so many of us, his friends, and so many of his family now find themselves, even on a very sunny day like today, in a world that is a bit darker. The chain of life has lost one of its more vital links. And so when we encounter silence today, just please know that there is lamentation and tears. Know that there is also loneliness and sorrow. May the family find solace in the presence of those of us who are loving friends and vice versa. And God, we turn to you today and say, hear our prayers, hear the prayers of this family, and be with them. For Julian's devotion that united so many in life, death can't take that. His companionship shared along life's path, his guidance, those things continue through the tenderness of memory. The gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy, made us smile, made us laugh, sometimes made us go, Those things live on as a precious remembrance. For all this and so much more, God, we turn to you in thanks, inasmuch as we turn to you in mourning. And so it's at this time of grief that we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures. They bring the ever-new message, God, of your nearness, especially at times like this. They tell of our kinship with you, our Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, and yes, in life as in death. These are the words of the first psalm. Happy are those who have not followed the counsel of the wicked, or taken the path of those who err, or join the company of the insolent. Rather, your teaching, O God, is their delight. They study that teaching. They live it day and night. They're like a tree planted beside streams of water, yields its fruit in season, whose foliage never fades, and whose fruit always flourishes. The words of the 15th Psalm. God, who may abide in your house and who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts. Wow, that was Julian. Who don't slander others, wrong them, or bring shame upon them. Who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere you, O God. Who give their word and come what may, do not walk away from it. Who don't exploit others, nor take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. I think also of the words of the 90th Psalm. God, you've been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return us to dust. You decree, O mortals, return, for in your sight 1,000 years are like yesterday when they've passed, like a watch in the night. And so you engulf us in sleep. We're like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew, but at dusk it withers and dries up. The span of our life, 70 years and 10, perhaps even 80 years. The best of those years have their challenges. They pass by so quickly. And then darkness. What do we learn from this? To number our days, to make them count, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. And we ask, O God, that you turn to us, showing mercy to your servants. Satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all of our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by their children. And God, may your favor be upon us, Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. So you may remember that it was about 5 years ago when the Supreme Court Justice, well-known Ruth Bader Ginsburg, passed away. National news. And it didn't go unnoticed, especially in the Jewish community, that she died on Rosh Hashanah. She died on the Jewish New Year. We'll likely never forget the outpouring of grief and sympathies from that time. But there was one more reflection, and it's pertinent today, that was shared at that time. It came out of the Jewish world. And it went like this. When someone dies on a Jewish holiday, that person is considered to be righteous. Remember that? It was like passed around in Jewish communities. When someone dies on a Jewish holiday, we consider them to be righteous. Julian Benjamin died on the second day of Shavuot this year, that holiday which marks the moment that God gave the Torah to our people at Mount Sinai. On that holy day, Julian passed in the most holy fashion, with family members surrounding him. We'll always remember Julian as someone who, in the words of his obituary, lived a life rich with intellectual pursuit, creative expression, and unwavering devotion to those that he loved. Amen to those words. That was Julian. But let me add to those words that Julian was also a righteous person. Call it the timing of his death, if you will, during one of the holiest days on the Jewish calendar. But let's also remember what righteousness truly is. Righteousness is when you see something that's out of whack, something that isn't right, and you do whatever you can to repair it. You dedicate yourself to making things right again. That's righteousness. And that was Julian. He was a consummate fixer. Righteousness is what we do throughout our life and the causes we choose as the focus of our efforts day in and day out. Righteousness is what we call in the Jewish community applied Torah, living out our tradition's highest and holiest directions for how to treat others. How we live, and not necessarily when we die, is the best indicator of who a person truly is. And by that measure, Julian Benjamin was truly righteous. Let me stop for a second. Debbie, sweet. Talking about Julian's righteousness. What else was he? He was a dedicated educator. Yes, he taught at NCA&T for 37 years. He was fiercely proud of that. But let's be honest, Julian taught wherever he was and wherever he went. Retirement? He may not have had a class load like he once did, but he taught wherever he was. His main Torah? No off switch. His main area of academic expertise was engineering. He was one of the intellectual pioneers of the field of study we now call supply chain management. Some professors are masters of theory. They live way up in the stratospheric clouds in the world of ideas. Others are more practical, well known for applying what they know to matters outside of the classroom. Julian was the rare mixture of those two worlds. Respected by his peers in academia and sought out as a consultant by those in industry. He could take the most complex concepts and make them understandable to pretty much anyone. We're all saddened that he died this week. His passing was unexpected. It leaves a real hole in our lives and in our hearts. Julian wasn't a kid. He was 76 years old. Nor was he the picture of perfect health. Julian, as was widely known, lived with MS, doing so without letting it define him. Even acknowledging that, I can't help but reflect what so many have said to me and what I feel myself. He left us way too early. But if he had to pass, if a righteous man dedicated to sharing his teachings as much as possible had to leave us, why not do so on the Jewish day on which Torah, God's own teachings, were passed from the heavenly heights to our earthly realms? There's something poetic about that. I'll have more to say about Julian in a few minutes, but I'd like to ask David, one of Julian's two sons, to please come forward and to share some reflections about his dad.
Thank you. So I'm going to tell you my father's story, and some of you may have heard this from him before, but you'll see it's actually a little bit different than what he used to say. So the story begins with a fun-living artist and a very kind man, I'll just keep that on the ground, who works in a beach ball factory. And they had a kid who adored the kind man and grew up talking in his father's very unique and patient way. And the boy had a lazy eye, the first sign of a body that didn't work the way it should have worked. But the kind man's body failed him too. And within a couple of years, he got sick. And the fun-loving artist struggled to take care of him. And neither the father, the kind young man, or the fun young artist, neither of them ever got better. So the young man died, and the artist, well, she involved her two children in her very public, very graphic delusions, and eventually ended up in a mental institution for significant periods of my dad's childhood. So at this time, there was no one to raise the children, and his older brothers began to spin out of control. But the still very young boy responded very differently than his older brother. He became focused on the care of his mother, and he studied like it was no one's business. He discovered that you could cover an entire year's worth of material in a couple of weeks if you just took the textbook and just read your way through it. And when the boy became a man, this was always with him. So the main thing that my dad struggled with was he was going to give us the family he never had. So my dad never had dinner growing up, but we always had family dinner every day at 6:30. And my dad also took from his youth and from his father and from his mother that life just was never inherently fair. But my dad knew where to look for justice. He found justice was always there in the world of ideas, and he knew that's where his kids would thrive. So my dad also knew what loyalty was. And he knew that loyalty was that you stay there when everybody is telling you that it's futile and that you should move on and take care of yourself. But that's not how my dad did it. So my dad tried when there was no guarantee that you would win. But it was important to my dad that you faced up to your problems and you tried to tackle them. And definitely never quit at them. So that little boy was always for the underdog. And he never stopped believing that we would win, like he did. Thank you.
That little boy, that great man, righteous man, Julian Benjamin, was born to parents Martin, aka Billy, and Naomi in Yonkers, New York on August 20th of 1948. I already mentioned that Julian died on the Jewish pilgrimage festival of Shavuot this year, that day of the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. Passing on a biblical Jewish holiday tells us about at least potential, not potential, but about his righteousness. His story also tells us about that. And yet Julian was also born on a significant day on the Jewish calendar. On the Hebrew calendar in 1948, August 20th, was the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Av. And this is not a well-known one. But the rabbinic tradition designated that day as the annual Jewish celebration of love. It's like being born on the Jewish version of Valentine's Day. I don't know that Julian ever knew that he was born on that particular day. That day celebrating love. In fact, I'm pretty sure that he didn't, because he was so good at pointing out important things, making connections, and teaching about them. Had he known this coincidence of his birth, I'm pretty sure he would have said something, especially to one of his rabbis. But we can say this about Julian. He did what he loved, and he loved what he did. Moreover, for a person with such a creative mind, right? Academic, he really led with his heart. Here's a short list of what he loved: music, guitar, singing, chess, sailing, motorcycle adventures, homemade fireworks. He loved photography. He loved making home movies. He loved his house here in Greensboro and was so fiercely proud of it. He loved telling stories. He was known to tell his share of jokes, to even yank people's chains, all in the spirit of making others smile. The list could go on and on. He loved being Jewish. He loved that he and Debbie got to spend a year in Israel, in Haifa, at the prestigious Technion, the so-called MIT of Israel, or maybe it's the other way around. He loved that city. Despite its crazy mountainous terrain, he loved it for its ethnic diversity, Jews and Arabs living together. He loved its artistic flair, its breathtaking natural surroundings. He loved Temple Emmanuel, especially singing in and being in Temple Emmanuel's choir. His place, right over there with so many others. He loved our choir, and the choir loved him. He loved being at Temple for the high holidays, for music events, and for our monthly Schmooze with the Rabbi program. Julian Benjamin made friends, and then he kept them. Loyalty, right, David? Because he loved his friends. Here's what Alan Goldfarb, we talked yesterday, a fellow academic, one of Julian's closest friends here in Greensboro, had to say about his lifelong buddy. I'll paraphrase Alan here. No matter the situation, Julian was always himself. What you saw was what you got. There was no faking it or putting on airs. For example, when Alan came to visit Julian in the hospital, Julian didn't want to talk about his own health predicament. Instead, he looked at Alan and said, "We need to discuss this situation in Israel." Julian always said what was on his mind and on his heart. According to Alan, Julian was forever curious. It's a highly admirable trait. There was never a dull moment or a lack of things to discuss. He had his proverbial antenna up and wanted to find real, meaningful ways to fix things. He did this in his own life, tinkering with his car and so many other aspects of his surroundings so that they fit. He also was bold enough to think that his ideas could be a source of making cities and even the broader world better for everyone. If this sounds like the 1960s, if it sounds like Woodstock and Alan, many of us know that you were there at Woodstock. No surprise, Julian was there too. Blue jeans and all. Above all, he loved you. He loved his family. Debbie, he loved you and cared for you. The story that you tell of how you started as a couple bears repeating, especially given that he was born on the day that our tradition designates for love. So here goes. Your sister and your brother were dating. The idea was to get the two of you together too. Maybe, just maybe, this would be one of those stories of two brothers marrying two sisters. The footnote is that their relationship didn't make it. But the headline is that yours did. And you came a long way from your first date. The two of you went to a seafood place in City Island. I hope I get this right. The way that Julian would tell the story, you wound up pouring ketchup all over everything. For some people, that would have been a deal breaker, but not for Julian. Moreover, he had a two-seat sunfish sailboat. Remember those sunfish sailboats out on the lakes? The idea was that you would go out sailing together, but you said, let's not. Maybe you said it differently, because you didn't know how to swim. Again, he could have walked away, but instead, in true Julian fashion, he found a workaround. You would sit in that bathtub of a sailboat on dry land, and that was your first date. Pretty cool. Your first step on a journey that saw you married in late 1973, a marriage that spanned over 51 years. Julian loved that the family you built together, your sons David and Danny, their achievements and later on their own families, he loved that. We have heard of some of his backstory. We know that he was a fantastic dad. But we would be lying if we didn't point out that his favorite title in life, above professor and doctor, was granddad. Miles, you have such vivid memories of playing chess with him. I'm sure there's much more. Willa. For you, it was his guitar playing. Each of you remembers his laugh, his smiles, his giving heart. Because that's what you brought out in him, even though it was really there for him naturally. So this past Monday, he and I spoke. He was in the hospital, really expecting to go home soon. As one of his rabbis, I've always treasured talking with him. Over the years, we've had our share of conversations. Some of them happen in hospital settings. And yet there is no way that I would have guessed that our conversation just days ago would be our last. At one point, unsolicited, Julian turned to me and said, Rabbi, I consider myself truly lucky. I mean, this came out of thin air. So I said, how so? And he proceeded to tell me about a time when he needed to be hospitalized. He ran the numbers out loud. Only 20% who were in that type of situation actually make it to the hospital. I made it to the hospital. Then he said that only 20% of those who have the procedure he needed actually live through it. And he lived through it. And I could see the scientist at work. 4% make it, he said out loud. Remember, he taught statistics at times. And then he said, in that time I made it. And I said to him, Julian, you know that you really are a glass half full type of guy. And he smiled that signature smile of his. I really am blessed, is what he said to me next. I really am blessed. Born on the Jewish Day of Love in 1948, Julian Benjamin really did live a blessed life. He died 3 days ago on Tuesday, June the 3rd, on one of the holiest days on the Hebrew calendar. If people who pass on a Jewish holiday are righteous, then those like Julian, born also on a special Jewish day and taken during a holy moment on our calendar, are doubly so. Julian Benjamin was a doubly righteous and a doubly blessed man. Our hearts go out to the long list of students whose minds and lives he impacted, as well as to his many friends. Of course, the ones who will miss him most are his family. Our blessings go out to his extended family. Wendy, I know that it means the world that you're here. We're not going to list everyone, but especially to his sons, David and Danny, to Danielle, to Veronika, to Michelle, and to his brightest lights, his grandchildren, Miles and Willa. And of course, to his bride and the one who was at the center of his big heart, Debbie. I know that the family is truly grateful to his doctors throughout the years and to his devoted caregivers. Again, if I miss anyone, please forgive me, but Jewish Family Services, y'all were there. Octavia, Angela, Shania, Oreo, Belay, Brittany. Angels, true angels here on earth among us. When someone so central to our life dies, we know that some of us have heard this before, it's not uncommon to feel that a piece of us, those who live on afterwards, goes with them. Julian, you're taking a part of us with you. But we also know not to end on that note, because when people die, a part of them continues on through us. Julian, we know that we are going to take a big part of you with us as we go forward. Thank you for all that you did. Perhaps that's why our sages in ancient times taught that if we continue to love the one we've lost, we never truly lose the one we love. Julian Benjamin left his mark on our lives and our world. He made us think, filled the world with music, made us laugh, spoke up because he cared. Julian, thank you for your dedication, your presence, that big heart, and your extra dose of righteousness. This community, all of us, will always remember you for blessing. As we say in Hebrew, Zichrono Livracha, may Julian Benjamin's name always live on as an inspiration and as a blessing. As together we all say, Amen. If you're able to do so, I ask that you stand at this time for the traditional El Malei Rachamim prayer. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bameromim Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Im Kedoshim Utehorim Kezohar Arakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Yaakov Melech ben Martin ben Naomi Shehalach Leolamo Baal Arachamim Yastirehu Beseter Knafav Leolamim Veitzror Bitzror Chaim et Nishmato Adonai hu nachalato V'yanuach v'shalom Al Mishkavo V'nomar Amen. O compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, we ask now that you grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Julian Michael Benjamin, who has entered eternity. God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your protective wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. For you, O God, you are his earned inheritance. May he forever rest in peace. And together let's all say, Amen. I'd like to ask, I actually want to say now that interment will take place at the Greensboro Hebrew Cemetery. It'll take place 30 minutes from now, so roughly at 5 minutes after noon. Know that we will not be going in a processional. I think those of us here in Greensboro know this already. We ask that you just go directly to the Greensboro Hebrew Cemetery. It's just too challenging and even dangerous to put on our headlights and blinkers and to all try to go in a row. Please allow the family to get to the transports, to the cars outside. Try not to visit with family. I know it's not easy in our foyer area or in the entry area in front of the sanctuary doors. The Greensboro Hebrew Cemetery is on the corner of Van Story and High Point Road. Do not just put in Hebrew Cemetery, because that may take you out to High Point, and we won't be there. We'll be here in Greensboro. But again, you can get to where we're going by directing your GPS to the Greensboro Hebrew Cemetery. At this time, I'd like to ask for the pallbearers to please come forward.